And welcome everyone here. We have sort of a two-part meeting tonight, as it were. We have a committee of the whole starting right now, and then we have a council meeting starting about a half hour later. So, approval of the committee of the whole agenda. Second. Councillor Dybel, Councillor Medlock, moving and seconding. All those in favor? Contrary? Carries. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held April 23rd of this year. Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Second. Okay. Tie game there. Okay. Councillor Stewart, Councillor Dybel, Medlock. Questions or comments pertaining to minutes? Okay. All those in favor? Contrary? Motion carries. And then we have a delegation here from Ms. Cindy Koszegi. And judging by the expression on Cindy's face, I messed up the pronunciation of the last name. So
you read instead of listened.
I'm really.
Koszegi.
Yeah, Koszegi. Okay, I was close, so I got to get marks for close. So just a quick thing, since not everyone from the delegation has been at previous council meetings. Obviously, the topic here to be presented is frequency of panhandling in our community and some of the associated behaviors. Now, just to give everyone here an update as to what the district has done, last year we had a task force group which met a few times, and essentially it was to discuss the issue of panhandling and some of the associated issues that we have in our community. What has happened this year is there is a coalition group of service providers that have been formed, and they've been meeting on a regular basis, and good progress has been made. We've had, as a council and as a council staff, we've had a regular dialogue with our provincial government, Premier's office, and Minister responsible. We've made some really good headway in dealing with some of the issues attached to this. Of course, as you know, the District of Hope is not funded for providing help for the homeless, so on and so forth. It's not part of our jurisdiction, but obviously, as representatives of our community, people, rightfully so, come to us and give appropriate feedback on what's working and what's not working in the community. So, feedback from the province has been that they're very concerned about what's going on in Hope. And they're probably within the next few weeks there's going to be an announcement of some options that will be presented to our community as far as funding. So just to put the meeting in perspective, fortunately I think everyone would agree there's been a reduction in the whole panhandling issue this year so far, which is good news, because when you look at what's happening in Chilliwack and Abbotsford, it seems to be getting a lot worse. So I know I've polled our staff who obviously work in the building and have a sort of front row seat as to what goes on downtown, and there seems to be a significant reduction. So that is good news, but obviously the problem is not solved. So look forward to hearing your presentation, Cindy.
Thank you.
And the rule of thumb is 15 minutes for a delegation, so if you can stick to roughly that would be good. We can get artistic though, it's 20 minutes probably.
Okay, thank you. Am I up now or
you
no?
Up
wonderful.
Now, like,
okay.
Don't waste any time.
Go Cindy, go Cindy.
Thank you very much. On behalf of many concerned residents here in Hope. And I got to say, here we are again. Do you remember doing this about a year or so ago? Unfortunately, bad behaviors by a relatively small number of the street entrenched have actually increased. And I have witnessed this all over town as, oh, thank you. Can I just go back, how do I use this to go back up a slide?
Yeah, just click and it goes forward.
Where am I supposed to be? Amen. There we
There
are. Okay. Thank you. So, I actually chose this picture for the very good reason that the clock is ticking. And we need to take a proactive stance, not a reactive stance. We need to promote the safety and comfort of all in the downtown business district, the residents, the business owners and their staff, and the visitors. And this includes those whose behaviors are necessitating some form of action. somebody is going to get hurt, and we don't ever want to see that. So it's noteworthy that my presentation is delivered not on behalf of, but with the support of the community, people that are here, and others who were unable to make it. I'm a Hope business owner and a resident of 15 years. And it's become apparent in the last 2 years that there are serious problems that need to be addressed. So, as our mayor has just said, the district hall is right on stunning park grounds here in Hope, right in the downtown core. Unfortunately, there's an awful lot of people who don't want to bring their kids into the park because of the bad behaviors that are witnessed there. Controls that are currently provided, whether by the bylaw officer or the RCMP, really aren't frequent enough to make an appreciable and lasting difference. So I've got a listing from the Good Neighbor bylaw up here. Many of these bylaws are contravened on a daily basis, and to the best of my knowledge, tickets aren't issued for these contraventions. There are no consequences to the infractions, despite monetary value deterrents that appear in the bylaws, typically by a $100 fine for occurrence. I get it, the challenges of enforcement and the penalties involved, but it doesn't appear that enough effort is being made to reduce the infractions by other means. There may be avenues of recovery in lieu of financial fine payment, with partnership with restorative justice for community service to be performed instead. That's just one thought. I'm just going to set that aside. Dawn is obviously better than I am. I tried with all my might to get an internet, a hyperlink to this. This is a compelling 2-minute presentation that was developed by one of our local residents, Crystal Sidor. And what exactly it is public education for the best practices to giving. Although in the video homelessness is addressed, this presentation itself does not involve the homeless population per se, but rather the negative behaviors and habits that are plaguing our society as a whole and that are present in Hope. Those who are the most prolific concerns for safety are not homeless, but come from our community and from nearby outlying areas daily. But the premise of feed hunger, not addiction holds true. Monies provided most often are spent on drugs and alcohol, further fueling the issues at hand. Providing food, clothing, shelter, aids, and personal care items instead of money, and doing your part if you have the time to volunteer at such agency that provides these things is very worthwhile if you're not able to provide money. And it's very important that the public be aware what bootlegging does. I think we've all been asked that at one time or another. So just this evening, when I was sitting in my car going over some emails, one of our prolific offenders rode up beside my car on his bike. My window was open about that much. Puts his mouth right down by my open window and asks me for $1.10. He was vibrating. Of course, I didn't provide for him. So, slide 5.
Would you like to play?
Oh, yes, it's up. Wonderful.
Make it big.
was wonderful to the point, and I think that anybody watching it gets the idea of what really transpires when money is there. So, we're on slide 5, are we? Community Safety Community Ambassador Pilot Project was provided free of charge to the community of Hope for 10 days in September of 2017 by BC Protection Services of Hope. The need for this patrol has been brought before Council in July of 2017, and by mid-August the already concerning issues have increased to the end that BCPS stepped up to help our downtown business district become safer and more comfortable for all. The results were immediate, measurable. 48% of patrols involved the combined community safety and criminal reports involving the RCMP that were brought to the attention of the RCMP by BCPS. Please also note that the patrol also serves to provide community ambassador attendance, and this was recognized by international tourists, such as this model of patrol and ambassador is provided in their home countries elsewhere. So in only 10 days, the negative behaviors were greatly reduced, largely by virtue of education in what is acceptable and not acceptable public behavior. The activity resumed as soon as it was known that the patrols had ceased. And I was firsthand right there witnessing what was going on as soon as the patrols ceased. About 4 or 5 days later, things resumed again. And the Community Safety Patrol team was the first on the scene at that devastating fire in December 2017 at the Hope Outdoors building. And they assisted with the evacuation of the building after making the initial call for the fire services. They continued to remain on scene past their hours of service on the last day of the pilot project to provide traffic and crowd control. So, as you can see, there's an awful lot of ground that was covered in those 10 days. Averaging about 14 kilometers per day. That's a lot of territory to cover in the downtown core here. By having foot patrol dedicated to the streets of Hope, there's greater likelihood of encountering situations that need their attention. Bicycle patrols would also be desirable, and as you can see each day, this significant distance was covered, and reaction time when called to attend to a situation was very prompt, as there is a direct phone connection to the staff on patrol, unlike the current format for calling bylaw services or the RCMP. You're basically triaged. By the time bylaw services are in the area or the RCMP get there, the situation has either dissipated or is gone. So, although the City of Surrey is noted on this slide just to illustrate the different delivery models of community safety programs, we're actually going to focus on the programs provided in Kelowna and Langford. These two communities have community safety programs that could be modified to fit our size, needs, and demographics. So let's look at Kelowna on Call. Kelowna on Call has played a vital role in downtown Kelowna since 2002. It is provided through the Kelowna Business Improvement Association and paid for through grants and a levy to businesses in the service area of downtown Kelowna. It is a year-round service. There are 2 shift teams of 2 paid staff, 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Monday to Thursday, 7:30 to 11 Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with an additional midday shift in the summer. Now, that sort of thing would be certainly excessive for Hope, but it is interesting to note the length that they have had this program in force, because they were looking at the issues in a proactive fashion. They still have their problems, but they are greatly mitigated by this patrol. So under the course of the last 16 years, it's undergone several refinements and change of delivery modality, and thus with the different changing needs of Kelowna. What they do is provide information about downtown businesses, community services, and they give direction. So essentially they're also serving as a community ambassador. They patrol back laneways from late afternoon into the early evening to ensure alleys and parking lots are free of loiterers when offices are leaving. They perform regular checks of parkades and parking lots. They perform regular checks of the 3 area parks in that district and the high traffic areas, and inspect washrooms. They work to develop, build, and maintain relationships with social service agencies and the RCMP to share information and concerns and problem solves to minimize undesirable activity. They provide safe work escorts and deposit escorts. Here's an interesting thing. They also escort clients who are sent to downtown Kelowna by bus from elsewhere in the community by various social service agencies to attend follow-up appointments. An example is meet them at the bus stop when they get off the bus, escort to an appointment and back to the bus to ensure point-to-point attendance is achieved without deviation for the opportunity to engage in old behaviors. This is an example for those that are in recovery following detox to attend John Howard Society offices, etc. They work in conjunction with bylaw services, which writes tickets for infractions to Kelowna bylaws and BC State Safe Streets bylaws. So let's go on to Langford. Their program was implemented in 2006 when the City of Langford recognized that there were issues occurring downtown that threatened the safety and security of residents and visitors. And this slide here shows everything that they do. The roles are provided noon through to 11 p.m. daily, fair weather months, approximately May 1st to the latter part of October. They have a much longer fair weather season than what we have here. Now it's also interesting to note that this year, in the, I guess, the middle to end of May, I was seeing the bad behaviors on at least the same scale and frequency as I was in June of last year, which is what prompted me last year to address council on these issues. Their program has been expanded to include the extensive trails network system surrounding the community. They have agency agreements with relevant social service agencies to provide frontline assistance to the town core, parks, and trails. This program is run through their bylaw services department. The cost of employing each RCMP member is approximately $150,000 per year. That's including benefits. The cost of 2 community safety patrol officers is approximately half of that figure. And this would, for Hope, be possibly a seasonal thing. Community safety patrol officers liaise and connect with the RCMP when necessary, and their positions make it possible for the RCMP to attend to the more pressing matters, yet attend to calls from the patrol in a timely fashion. So, RCMP presence. Now, I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember Whistling Gurney Smith. Somebody brought this to my attention, and I had completely forgotten about him. And as soon as I looked at his picture online, I knew exactly who this guy was. This quote here is actually from his obit in the Globe and Mail in December of 2012. Apparently, he actually did say this. He was the subject of a short feature film on his life and the effectiveness of his policing style. He walked the beat. He engaged with the people. He had such an attitude about him that the people that he was policing were more prone to listen and take note and take to heart what he was saying than perhaps some of the other policing methods that are out there. Again, it's the Hope Detachment and its members are really doing the best that they can. We don't have an awful lot of RCMP members available at all times. We also have a very large area of policing responsibility. And again, consistency is key. If patrols are seen throughout the district, never knowing what time a patrol is going to happen, and action is taken, it is going to mitigate the bad behaviors that are present. So where do we go from here? Several potential grant funding leverages that may be available through local organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, Advantage Hope being very heavily involved in bringing tourism to Hope may possibly be quite interested in this. Community policing, as well as the district. the district may be eligible for some grants. Sources of grants, federal community safety grant, forfeiture and proceeds of crime grant, provincial, such as the community gaming grants. Corporate funding, that's one area that needs to really be looked at, because we have Spectra, Fortis, Kinder Morgan, Trans Mountain Pipeline, all those will disburse monies at times. And an after-hours volunteer presence would really be a good thing here in the downtown core. So, we're all in this together. Hashtag Take Back Hope is a group of concerned Hope residents who want our downtown business district to be safe and comfortable for all to enjoy. It's a group born on social media in May 2018. Many members are heartily in favor of a community safety patrol to be implemented based upon the successes of last year's 10-day pilot project. This group is very much in favor of seeing long-term solutions and care exerted towards our disadvantaged. Food, shelter, medical, and psychiatric care and treatment options must be provided for those who are seeking it. We're all in this together. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Cindy, and your group for coming out. As you correctly pointed out, and as we talked about before, this is a large problem that plagues a lot of communities, all communities essentially, in our area. Of course, it's a mishmash of mental health and need for recovery options for people that have decided to make lifestyle changes. I like the idea of providing food and blankets and you know, covering needs in a very practical way of those that are homeless. And of course, there's quite a number of groups already that essentially their mission is to do that, like the Northwest Harvest Church. They have an outreach and they're very effective at doing that. The HATS, Open Area Transition Society, they care for the homeless. There's a number of other groups. So one thing I would do is maybe one or two people from your group, yourself and someone else or what have you, attend the coalition group. I know there was a couple of invites that went out and no one from your group attended, so I'm assuming there was...
There is actually, if I could just interrupt that, I believe somebody is going to attend, and we just discussed it on the weekend, that failing her ability to do so, I will just have to see what I can do to find somebody to run my office for an hour or two to attend myself, if it comes down to that. But it was my understanding that somebody was going to be attending that. Now, I do want to reinforce the fact that many of the prolific offenders, I'm going to use that term because it describes it succinctly, are not homeless individuals. These are street entrenched individuals who have either psychiatric or most of them have drug and alcohol issues. And homelessness is not a part of that particular problem. However, with many new people coming into town, I have on several occasions now seen new faces with the old faces essentially being shown around. And I find that very concerning. I don't know if these people are homeless. Remains to be seen. They appear to be so because of the amount of belongings that they are carting around with them. So, at the end of my question here, is it reasonable for me to ask that the District of Hope examine the potential for implementing a community safety patrol during the good season, the good weather season here in Hope?
Well, you can certainly ask and we can certainly consider it. That's definitely an option. It's not included in this year's budget, but if there's some innovative financing options that you come up with, then I guess that's something that we certainly look at. You know, I think the whole issue is we have to try to nip the problem where it starts, and that is, you know, if someone has a drug addiction problem, make sure they have the outreach services available and the personal attention so that they can make changes if they want to. Like now in the province of BC, people that are addicts that want to make changes, they have a wait to get into rehab. Well, that is a huge, huge problem, because someone that is excited about getting into rehab today who's an addict might not be overly enamored with the idea tomorrow, or even tonight, like tomorrow morning. So the clue is to have almost immediate services available. So if someone is in the mood, they phone a number, they get an outreach worker, and then there's a very low wait time to seek out that help. So there's a lot of provincial changes that have to be made, and I think we've made some pretty good headway in dealing with the province. I'll give the government fair marks in saying that they have an open mind, and I think within the next few weeks we're going to have some fairly interesting announcements that will be pleasing to the community. A couple of items I wanted to bring up to tack on to what you said there. You know, the idea of tickets, of course, for many of us, a ticket is not a good thing because we have to go pay it and so on and so forth, and it's, you know, $100 is $100 you can't spend anywhere else. But for someone who's homeless, obviously ticketing a homeless person represent $100 or $75 or $25 is more than their personal net wealth in most cases. So ticketing someone who is homeless is a waste of everyone's time, unfortunately. I think ticketing people that support, you know, that give money directly is an option, although it may not be particularly popular. But I think one thing we can do as community members is, if we want to care for the homeless, deal directly with the service providers, go to HAB, go to the Northwest Harvest Church, and provide resources or provide blankets and food and so on. You know, they know what the needs are, and they can certainly lead us in the right direction so that we're not, you know, hands-on providing money to those that are homeless. Because as you correctly pointed out, that money may just go for acquisition of drugs and alcohol. So there's ways to be very discerning about helping those in need. And I'm glad you're planning, or a delegate is planning on attending the coalition meeting. And I think that is a very natural mutation of the task force group, because essentially the task force group last year, as I recall, was essentially a discussion group talking about the problem. But the district itself is concerned. We want to be supportive of solutions, but we're not funded for caring for the homeless. We don't have funding for housing. We don't have funding to start recovery programs. But I think as a council we can be very effective at dealing with the province and lobbying for extra funding, in working with local service providers, providing solutions that way, as opposed to providing actual resources in terms of dollars, because the majority of people in Hope have been very clear about saying tax increases have to be very small and affordable, because we already have taxes that are high enough in this community, and we don't want to push our boundaries too far here. So,
may I just take a moment to bring this back around, that this presentation was not regarding homelessness. I just wanted to show the 2-minute video to show what public education that we are doing in order to get get the givers to be giving in the right way. This presentation was about community safety. So what?
Go ahead, sorry.
What I'm hearing is that you have said that if we can come up with creative funding, that the district will endorse it?
no, what I said is we'll consider it. Big difference. You know, I mean, we have to be open-minded to solutions. Obviously, I'm not in a position where I can say, okay, I as mayor say green light to the community safety patrol regardless of conditions. So I think if you come up with a presentation as far as where the money would come from as a council, we could certainly look at that. It would be in very poor taste to say to you tonight, no, I have no interest in that. That's not something council will consider, because we haven't seen a proposal, we haven't seen specifics. So if we see specifics, then as a council we can consider that. I mean, we definitely as a community, we don't want to get into a position where we're just chasing trouble from one end of the community to the next. It has to be a holistic solution to a problem.
Of course.
You know, and to just have folks walking around telling them you're not welcome here, and then they just go off to another business, that's not particularly useful. We have to have a very holistic solution to the problem. And I'm not sugarcoating the problem we have, but I am so happy we're not in the Chilliwack and Abbotsford situation.
Absolutely, and none of us want to see that happen.
Yeah, what a disaster that is, to go shopping in downtown Chilliwack or downtown Abbotsford. It's, the one thing I'm very happy about tonight is that there's a very mature approach to the presentation that you provided. I was a little shocked at first because there was a screenshot that was given to me. I guess someone posted on your website and the administrator didn't take it down quickly. I guess maybe there was a time between inspections of the site where someone wanted to, you know, take matters in their own hands and tune up a few homeless. Now that is,
Oh, that
You
was, oh, no, that was removed.
yeah,
Yes.
but that definitely got spread far and wide. So, you know, the cautionary note is when you have a website like that up, you gotta be on it all the time, because if it's, you know, if it's sitting there for an hour or two or longer, then the obvious, the reputation of the group becomes diminished and the credibility is officially down the toilet. And I have a sneaky suspicion that anyone takes matters into their own hands and has a nonverbal dialogue with the homeless are probably going to be the ones losing. Because a lot of the folks that have lived on the streets for a while are pretty street savvy. So, you know, if I was betting on who would win that one, I would definitely not be betting on the vigilante type. So, you know, we have to, as a community, we have to be very cautious when we deal with this.
Is this an open thing where anybody can speak at all, or no, not really, or?
Well, I mean, if you're part of Cindy's delegation, you can certainly.
I think seeing here is wonderful to see everybody. I don't see very many parents, like young children, which that's what I am.
Yeah.
My son is 14 and my daughter's 12, and I don't even know them walking around our town anymore. Like, it's ridiculous. I have to pick up my son from work because there's people out there panhandling, being aggressive, and he's 14, like, and he has to deal with that at work. Like, and just, I don't know, I just say, I'm telling my daughter she can't go to the town park, she can't ride her bike to beach, she can't, my son goes to the skate park, and there's, you know, a tent city going up, and the people who are going there are not homeless people, they are people who have homes in this town, because I know them, I've lived in this town a very long time. Like, what am I supposed to tell my kids? Like, I mean, I understand like the downtown core for the business, I get that, but we have children and it's not safe for them. Like, my son should be able to ride his bike to work and back and be able to be okay with that. And he can't. My daughter should be able to ride her bike to school and back, and she can't. And, I don't know, you're just,
Frustrating, isn't
it's
it?
very frustrating.
Yes.
Like, and I'm not the only parent. I am one of the only parents who came because we all work, and it's difficult to get here and stuff like that, but we're all very concerned. We have their discussions about it over and over. Like, a 14-year-old should not have to deal with leaving work, that he's working, and deal with people being aggressive towards him and asking him for money and threatening him. Like, that is ridiculous. Like,
You're not the only one that I've heard that from.
oh, it happens all the time. And then I have stepped in around town, I've seen things where I'm waiting to pick them up from work and I see them going after people, elderly people, getting into their cars, and they're
Yep.
frightened, and like, we can't have this. Like,
Yeah, no, it's a valid concern, and I think the old adage, no call too small, we can apply in our community. I mean, we have an RCMP that works hard for our community, and I know the members, they, obviously if there's a, you know, domestic assault in progress and there's a couple officers dealing with that, their priority will be the domestic assault as opposed to, you know, dealing with the complaint you get about an aggressive panhandler or someone who's doing similar activities. So, but certainly if you see anything that is inappropriate, definitely phone the police, because that is, I think we have to have a zero tolerance for disrespectful behavior in our community.
it's not disrespectful, it's threatening.
Yeah.
It's not just disrespectful.
Yeah.
They're children and they're being threatened.
Yeah.
Like,
But that's something that we definitely have to report to the police. So if that happens, you know, get on the horn and insist that the police deal with it. If there's any issues with policing there you're not satisfied with, certainly come talk to me about it. I'll talk to Staff Sergeant Redner about it.
I will say I did write a letter to the town right away when I saw the tent city going up by the bike park, because I was like, are you kidding me? Now the children can't even go there. And I don't know if the town got it down, but it was down very quickly, which I really appreciated. But there's others in there. The kids tell me, no, now they're just gone behind the bushes where you can see them and stuff like that. Well, that is concerning. There are so many children there. Like, it's just, and they're not because they're homeless, because I know who those people are. And they're not homeless, they have families, they have places they can be. They go in there and they do their drugs and things like that. And
Well, and the good news is if you suspect that, then definitely phone the police and
I
say,
will.
hey, there's you know, drug use or drug deal going down. And that is the clue to actually, you know, phone the RCMP and make sure that they attend and deal with it. Because if they get regular visits from the RCMP, even if they're not caught in the act. They're certainly not gonna be in that location anymore, hopefully they'll move along and,
They have
you know,
Do we have time for one more comment here?
Sure, yeah, we're running a little over time, but,
Okay, the one comment is not about hope, well, it is about hope, but it's about Chilliwack. The city of Chilliwack had opportunities in the past, as it was highlighted quite prominently by citizens, to deal with their situation before it came to the point that we have today. And they were not proactive. There were probably another number of things that came to play, but they were not proactive. And so, as we mentioned Chilliwack today, as we mentioned Abbotsford, here in Hope, it can happen to be that way. It is a much smaller place, but it can happen if you're not proactive. That's all I have to say. We see the results of being lax in Chilliwack and Abbotsford. I have grandchildren still in Chilliwack. I worry every day.
mhm. Yeah, and you have every reason to worry for sure. Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Miller.
Thank you. In one, I think it was Kelowna, you mentioned that their community safety patrol is partly funded by a business improvement association. Have you had any discussion with local businesses about forming such an association and providing some funding in that
No, I
direction?
have not, but we are now going to be embarking upon looking at some creative funding and going through one of the existing organizations in order to leverage some grant writing.
Is the chamber, you're still involved with the Chamber of Commerce?
I currently am not, but I think I'm going to be again.
I'm just curious to know if they've been having any discussions around it too. I mean, it's an unfortunate thing that any of it, whether it's a district bylaw enforcement, you know, like you highlighted our bylaw there, it's probably true that it doesn't get enforced because we've only got one bylaw officer and
Right.
he's too busy guy as it is. And the type of fines he'd be issuing are probably not gonna get paid, so I think it's workload balance there, but to hire any additional people to focus on that issue costs money, and of course that has to come from somewhere, so the funding is definitely a concern as to where it's gonna come from. But yeah, I guess it's good to hear that you're going to be talking with people and see where that can go.
So, if I understand correctly, the District of Hope is not able to apply for grants for community safety purposes?
I think
There's opportunities, I'm sure. If you identify an opportunity we haven't seen, you could certainly pass it our way.
Okay, so perhaps a couple of agencies in conjunction with, as I had mentioned in my presentation.
Oh yeah, I was just,
I am certainly not expecting the money to just be pulled out of any old orifice here. We all know they're pretty tight right now.
Yeah.
But if these other communities can do it and leverage funding, Little Hope should be able to do so on a seasonal basis. So we're going to be investigating what potential grants are available and see what we can do to write some. So if we can be in communication with respect to the writing of grants, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, if there's any pockets of money out there that you identify, that's certainly a good thing. I think, speaking to the gentleman's point about what's happened down the valley, I think one of the best things that we're very business friendly to our business community, but I think we have to be very business unfriendly to criminal activity. So anytime you see something that is perceived to be criminal in nature, then we have to phone our RCMP, because I know nowadays it's you know, it's handy to throw it on Facebook and say, you know, but some people they'll put it on Facebook and not notify the police. Well, the police do not check Facebook. They're too worried about chasing after criminal activities.
Well, they check it.
You know, I mean, there was a case of a lady posting, I remember, not a criminal issue, but for like 2 days she had on there, there's a storm drain, metal grating missing on Fifth Avenue. Why hasn't this been repaired? Phone Public Works, 10 minutes later it'll be fixed, you know, so I mean, we definitely have to make sure that we follow the proper channels and, but if we get a reputation in our community as being very business unfriendly to the criminal element or to mischief makers by actively engaging our RCMP, and I know most of them, and I know that they are keen on making a difference in our community. That's why they're in the career they're in. So they appreciate the calls and the odd bit of positive feedback too. And I know we can probably even further engage them in this issue, because the more calls they get, obviously the more important it is to them. So I think that's the best thing we can do to deter more people coming into town with nefarious intentions. Like some people, obviously they're in the predicament they're in, they didn't intend to get their complex social problem, but the gentleman mentioned the influx of non-local troublemakers. If we have a reputation of not tolerating that, by engaging the RCMP on a regular basis, that is a very good thing.
It is the difficulty with the reaction time of the RCMP.
Yeah.
And I have spoke to many people who have phoned and not had a member attend.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, I had to file a complaint, and I did not see a member attend, but when a member became available, they did indeed pick up the offending party. This person threw a bottle of booze at my door.
Yeah.
It took probably 3 hours until a member was able to get out there and pick the person up. So, even in many instances, Al is off doing something else, so when you have to go through the district hall, get to his voicemail, or they call his cell phone or page him, I don't know exactly what the process is, it can be 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes before he's able to attend, and then the people have gone, moved along down the road, or gone with the money that they've been given to the liquor store to get somebody to bootleg for them.
But no disrespect to our bylaw enforcement, but if someone does something as disrespectful and inappropriate as throwing alcohol at your window and potentially smashing your window, that's an RCMP thing.
Yes.
That's not a bylaw enforcement thing.
I did
That's
phone.
beyond ignorant behavior and just, inappropriate behavior. That's an RCMP behavior.
I did phone bylaw first because I wanted some more immediate attention, but I was told by the front desk staff that they were unable to do anything about it, and it was an RCMP.
Okay. Now, Councillor Stewart, and then I think we have to head to the council meeting.
Cindy?
So I just have a quick question, Cindy. As you're looking for funding, what is the approximate cost that you're looking to fund? Have you researched that? Do you know how much money you'll be looking for?
I would say for the seasonal patrols to start with, between May and let's say the end of September, if I could just ask a quick question. Jason's just pulling up the numbers for me. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's just when you're talking about getting grants, I was
Yes.
wondering what the number might look like. And also, I just want to communicate with you that as a former business owner in Hope, I also dealt with this. And it wasn't just 5-6 years ago. It's been ongoing for a long time. And the response that I used to get when I called the police was that I needed to tighten my belt and make sure my lights were fixed, and that I needed to, take responsibility for my part. So I understand your frustration. And now that being said, I also don't agree that this is a homeless issue. I know that this is not about homelessness. This is about aggressive behavior, and this is about drinking in public, and this is about things that I deemed as illegal. So do call the police. And call and call and call and call. Don't stop.
That's my mantra. Report, report, report.
That's it.
You can't report enough.
Hello, it's me again.
Yeah.
And I would call sometimes 3-4 times a day.
Oh, Jason, I touched the screen.
Did you see the number, Jason?
I
Yeah,
did.
so it's about $4,700 per month.
47.
And that would cover 5 days a week service, 8-hour
So about
shifts.
30.
Yeah.
It could be spread over a week for short hour services on certain days versus weekend.
Per person.
Per officer.
A month.
Yeah, so 9,000 a month essentially.
Yeah.
No,
No.
no.
4,700 per month?
47 per month.
per month, per officer?
per officer.
Yeah. So a little over $9,000 a month.
For two.
For two
Yeah,
officers,
for
yes.
two officers,
Yes,
yeah.
that's right.
Two are preferable for work
Realistically,
safety.
we can do with one officer for that role in conjunction with RCMP as well as existing bylaw services.
And Jason, thanks for that, volunteering your services last year to,
Yeah.
get involved in that. Well, we thank you all for coming. We do appreciate it. We're on it, as it were, and we look forward to seeing, a delegate from your group at the coalition meeting.
You will.
That's a good thing. But good things are in the works, so we're making headway.
All right.
Thank you very much. Maybe a 2-minute break and then we'll hit the council meeting.